Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and I'm really having fun playing as America, and this is interesting for me because I've never done this before. So there's a lot new to me here. Literally, I've started America a couple of times and played a few months into 1936, but never played like this. So like I said, this is all new to me. Now, I want to continue this series, and viewership has been fairly poor. I'm taking the hit on the YouTube channel, which overall affects the YouTube channel growth and everything else. But I really hope, if you guys want to see this series go through to a good conclusion, conquer Germany, conquer Japan, that kind of conclusion, I will need good viewership, because it's going to take a long time to get there to play through, because we're sort of speeding through, other than my ranting about things, speeding through these pre-war years, for America at least. I will need your help in hitting the like button, making comments. You can make two sets of comments, because it's just the number of comments, it's engagement, it helps bring it up. When you get done watching this episode, start it over again. You can turn the audio off and minimize the screen and go on and watch something else on YouTube or play some other game. Just sort of forget about it and let it run in the background or something like that. Really, if you want to see the American series go through to a conclusion, because I know some people complain, hey gamer, you don't finish this, you don't finish that. Yeah, I know, and a big part of it is just not enough interest. And I've got, there's no point in killing the channel just to complete a series, because 20 diehards or 30 diehards want to watch the whole damn thing, or otherwise they don't want to play it if I'm not getting good views. So please, everyone, if you're interested in wanting to see how we do things a bit different than historically in America, please do make comments, like the videos, share the videos on other social media. It will really help and make the series go longer. And hello, Ragar. Got a lot of schadenfreude by watching today Ukraine offensive, hearing about EU introducing 7th package of attempts to ruin itself, so decided to get some relaxation and watch this. Well, cool. Missed quite a bit of this series. Have annoying, unrealistic revolt stop. Yes, ZZ, we have. One of the big things we have got here now is feared National Police Building. So I produced the J. Edgar Hoover building, which I think was made in the 70s, which is still what it's called, even though the now controversial history of J. Edgar Hoover in Washington, D.C., which I have visited and went on a tour once of the building, a guided tour, many years ago as an older kid, in some of my teen years. I forget, some, I remember a lot of it. They took us down to the shooting range and, demonstrated shooting and whatnot. It was set up for tours, at least at that time. So we've done that. So that got us another 5%. So we are now in the green everywhere. So now I've not had the scripted ones too much recently. Strike here and a bunch of revolts. Those may still be happening, ZZ, but they are not happening as frequently now. So I don't know whether just what's changed for sure on the scripted ones, whether they just don't have them. Now back to Ragar. I'm not going to go too long. Yeah, I was seeing within the last 24 hours, Biden was saying, well, Ukraine may have to negotiate, or may have to give up land in negotiations to get peace. And I have a friend who lives in, who's Ukrainian and lives in Ukraine right now, and I'm in contact with him, about weekly, sometimes more often than that. And my first thought is, how do you like being an American puppet now? Because if America says you give up Ukrainian territory, you know what you do? You give up Ukrainian territory. Because otherwise, weapons stop coming in, money stops coming in, and maybe even stop having sanctions against Russia if you don't do what America says. So, yeah. Biden and his administration is running the things badly. Oh, the Pentagon was... Why? That's maybe the first time I've clicked on this. Why did they put the Pentagon here? If I'm not mistaken, the Pentagon was like completed like in 1946 or 47. I mean, I think it started or something, production of it like in 44 or 45. Not that you can, I think there may be a way. I don't know if there really is a way to change pictures by events, but maybe you can. I don't know. I'm not sure that you can. Now, maybe a picture of the Pentagon under construction might have been cool here. Because the Pentagon is actually outside of Washington, D.C. It's across the river. It's in Virginia. Not enough room to put it in Washington, D.C. So they put it just literally across the river. You drive across the bridge and then into the Pentagon complex. So yeah, that wasn't here for most of World War II. So yeah, on Ukraine, I still think the Ukrainians are winning. Yeah, I notice I say I think because I don't trust the Ukrainian. Ukrainian sources are often been wrong about their things, whether they're knowingly lying or just the chaos of war and, you know, any good news they put out hoping it's true kind of thing. I don't trust any sides on that. You know, it's just watch and observe over a while. But you can be giving up ground, and the Russians, I almost said Soviets, but the Russians can be taking ground, and the Ukrainians can still be winning, because if you've got, you know, 500 enemy coming towards you, and even if you got 500 of you, you could fight and hold that line and take a lot of casualties, or you could just ambush them, kill a bunch of the enemy, and then fall back to another position. And yeah, you're giving up territory, but you could be, you know, making the enemy pay, you know, kill ratios of, you know, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 or something against your enemy, you know, kill, you know, your loss, you know, one dead of yours to 5 of the enemy or something like that. By doing good tactics, and you may be giving up land, and it may be looking like the Russians are winning. And if they're willing to sustain the casualties and keep pushing, yeah, with those tactics, because Russia is a big place, they could eventually win. But tactically, the Ukrainians can be winning. And strategically, because bleeding them, you know, white, bleeding them dry, that could also be winning too. So even though the Russians are pushing in and taking territory and can be telling Putin and being published correctly, can be, but I don't trust the Russians either, correctly, you know, advances territorial control without quite being honest about the casualty levels. So even though I see, and this is what I, from day 4 or 5, literally day 4 or 5, I was very much of the opinion, I'm not, you know, yeah, position does matter, you know, yeah, if they take this isn't Kiev, where's Kiev? Kiev. They take Kiev, yeah, that's a big thing, but just that they were, you know, circling around some of it, yeah, it doesn't necessarily matter. It matters casualty ratios and tactically on the field. So 43, is that when you're saying starting the Pentagon building or something? Could be. I'm pretty sure it wasn't done then. Maybe I'm all wrong, Kyle. I can be wrong. I'm just going off of memory. So I think Ukraine's winning, and the 7th package of attempts to I don't know exactly what's that. Oh, finished in 43. Was it really? So I'm wrong. Okay, I can be wrong. I'm just going off of memories. I thought it was post-war. It was post-war completed. Because it was it was made as the War Department. Well, there was the War Department until the end of World War II, and then it changed to the Defense Department. Started in 41, finished in 43. Okay, I'm wrong. Okay, Rhaegar, Kyle, I believe you. I was believing Kyle because I'm figuring you're looking it up. Yeah, I'm believing you. Okay, I'm wrong. Gamer's wrong. I'm wrong. I don't know everything. Okay, so that isn't so bad either. Okay, I thought it was post-war. Yeah, well, everybody has to remember. This is one thing that I think the world has forgotten. The world has forgotten. The U.S., the United States of America, has not been at war since 1945. They've participated in wars, absolutely. There was, the North Korean invasion of South Korea. Yes, the UN sent in intervention forces, and America was part of that. Yes, there was the war by North Korea to take over South Korea, and yes, America sends forces into Korea. Yes, America's attacked on 9/11, and they send forces into the into Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. They sort of declare war, though not officially, against Al-Qaeda. Well, we've pretty much decimated at least that original Al-Qaeda. But, but we have not, as a nation, has not been at war since 1945. And that is a major difference for every single thing. Only the United States Senate can declare war. Now, the United States Senate, along with the House of Representatives, has given, sort of over the Gulf of Tonkin and some other things, have given the president, I think it's up to 90 days to send military forces into somewhere in the world without their approval. After 90 days, I think it's that, maybe it's 60, I'm not sure, they have to get approval from Congress to continue the military intervention. But the president cannot declare war. I mean, he can invade a country, but he can't declare war because he can send forces in because they've given the president 90 days to fight a battle, but that isn't declaring war. So that needs to be, I wonder how many billions would they waste nowadays? Well, yeah, but it's just, so if America were really to get motivated by something ever again, like going to war, truly go to war, it would be a frightening thing. It would be a frightening thing. So you probably don't want to see that, even if you're friendly to America. For multiple reasons. Okay. And so if we were to, push something like a war effort to building some building like the Pentagon, we could get it done very soon because you don't need to go to have environmental studies like you'd have to do now. How would building the Pentagon or some building like that infect its local environment? We've got to do a study on it. No, we're going to do this over here. Where? Here? Okay, start digging, literally. That's the way it would, because with the war, all of those other sorts of requirements go away. And everybody's favorite, one way or another, favorite to like, favorite to complain about, Elon Musk recently tweeted, I think it was 5 years, but it might have been 3 years. He just got his factory online in Texas, and I think it was in 5 years. Get his factory, but maybe it was 3 years. I'm not sure. If somebody wants to correct me now or later, they can. His Tesla factory going on in 5 years, let's just say. And he said, in California, we would still be worrying about the paperwork to start start construction on it in that amount of time. And he knows because there is a Tesla factory in California that he went through and built. So he isn't just like BSing or bullshitting or, well, California, it must be worse. No, he knows because he's built he's built a Tesla factory in California. He's built a Tesla factory in Texas. You build the total factory quicker than it does to even just get the paperwork done and the approvals done, environmental studies and approvals through the bureaucracies in California. So you wonder why all the industry is fleeing California. And so, yeah, America can be that fast if it wants to be. But America believes, enough of it believes, that humanity is of secondary importance to every other consideration. Oh, what's it going to do to the environment? You mean the raw sewage dumping into the river? Yeah, we all agree that raw sewage should not be dumped into the river. Or, radioactive material should not just be dumped out of a dump truck into a river. Yeah, we all agree upon that. But the pendulum has just swung so far to the other side that it is even harming the environment because, driving out, we don't want to actually add more industry. Driving out industry to, shall we say, places in the world that are going to have no controls over it, dumping radioactive material into a river, say like in China or something like that, or just literally sewage into the river untreated, they're going to just move the factories to there. So a lot of them, just to have it in a more secure economically environment, meaning you're not likely to be nationalized by the government or something like you might in China, they would be willing to put up with more regulation of all sorts in America versus putting it in China, say. But if you go too much regulation, then they've got to go somewhere else, whether it's a different state or a different country. And that is ultimately, so for your stated goals. Now, of course, I do actually believe their actual goals is deconstruction of America and covert revolution in America. I truly do believe that is at least some of the people's goals. And it looks like a much later period. And he looks awfully aged there compared to 1940, but I could be wrong on that too, when that photo was taken. Okay, President Roosevelt, in the middle of an election campaign, promises not to send our boys to war on October 30th, 1940 in Boston, Massachusetts. And while I'm talking to you, mothers and fathers, I give you one more assurance, as I have said this before, and I shall say this again and again and again. Our boys are not going to be sent to any foreign wars. They're going into training to form a force so strong that by its very existence will keep the threat of war far away from our shores, and the purpose of our defense is defense. Well, we all know politicians lie. They have to lie. And I'm not even talking elected politicians too, because if you're a monarch somewhere, and an actual monarch with some political power, you may know of a secret plan. Whatever that, plan to defend something, plan to attack somebody, plan to rescue some people out there, and have to go out and lie, because you got to hide the secret. there are valid, good, legitimate reasons that everybody will agree that politicians have to lie upon it. Are you building a new secret weapons program in your country? Well, of course not. Because if they go, well, yes, we're building these secret whatever. No, you have to lie. You have to lie, even if you know. And I don't credit politicians. But here is a different type of lie. Because he is lying. He is flat out lying. FDR wants to be involved in World War II. Because by October 1940, France has fallen. Okay. So this isn't like, oh, hey, ho, ho, September, 1939, Germany's going to war with Poland. Well, Britain, France, Poland, they've got this thing, no problem, because Italy's still neutral. Hungary, Romania are all neutral. Hey, it's just Germany, France, Britain. Yeah, we'll send armaments and stuff. Yeah, great, and we'll cheer you on, and we might, make sure there's no U-boats operating in the western half of the Atlantic. Watched a really good on Drakchinifil's channel. I know I've shouted him out several times now. Biography of Admiral King, the sort of god emperor of the American Navy, how the Americans were in 1940 basically running around the western part of the Atlantic looking for U-boats, whether aircraft. I'll get to some of the chats here in a minute, ZZ, and others. Hello, Brady, how you doing? No problem, good to have you here. Running around the Atlantic, whether aircraft or ships or whatever, and trying to spot all the U-boats they could, but they were neutral, and if they weren't in like U.S. waters, and they were staying out of U.S. waters, running around out there, and then trying to report them, reporting its location like in the clear, hey, U-boat spotted here, so that the British could come in and attack it, or move convoys out of the way or whatever. They were doing everything they could short of shooting at the submarines to help the Allied war effort. Now this was, by 1940 or 41, I forget the exact year, But yeah, early on, I may go legitimately, yeah, Wilson, or not Wilson. Wilson. Now, FDR might not really be like, oh, I'm going to try to get us into this war. It's like, well, maybe, the arsenal of democracy might just be able to supply France and Britain. And Japan, was still just messing around a bit in China. Yeah, they've got all this stuff. Yeah, they may have this handled, and we'll see, this may just, be doable for them. But by the time France falls, FDR wants to get into the war. Now he doesn't want, and some of this I know he wants to do from various biographies or, documentary biography type things I know. Some of this is my projection, I will state, but he doesn't want to get America into the war in a divisive way, in which you would have, huge anti-war rallies. This is why he doesn't go to Congress in late 1940, early 1941, or go to the Senate and go, my dear, and you get this before you get the vote counted before you actually ask for the vote to happen. Meaning you go count the heads and see who's going to vote what way. You're going, my dear senators, with the grave news from Europe and the evils of Nazism, blah, 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 and, all this stuff, I'm going to ask you to give us a declaration of war against the Nazi evil menace, and have it be a divided vote on it. Because if I'm not mistaken, there was what? Well, there's 48 states, so there was like, what, 86 senators? 2 senators per state. All but one of the senators, on December 8th or 9th or whatever the date was for the declaration of war against Japan, that it's voted on. I forget what the exact date it's voted on. It's like a day or two after FDR does his speech to the Senate that they actually take the vote. But it is almost unanimous. Only one, and it was a she, and it was the only woman in the Senate, I believe, and she was a pacifist. And I don't know whether she votes present or votes no, but she is the only one not to vote for going to war with Japan. And then, of course, Germany declares war on America. So America then at that point, well, yeah, okay, since you declared war on us and you're going to be fighting us, yeah, we'll declare war back on you as well. So the American Senate also near unanimously declares war on Germany as well, but only after. So he doesn't even ask for a declaration of war against Germany after Japan attacks. It's only until it's only after Germany declares war on America. So he does not want it to come in and seem divisive. Now, he does want to drag us into the war. So this is a knowing, by this time period, knowing political lie that he wants to get, the majority of Americans' support for being in the war. But he wants to get us into the war. And so this is a great big lie. This isn't just one of those things that is wishful thinking. Like he wishes, because he does, it's not like, oh, the purpose of our defense is defense. He doesn't really just want to say, oh, well, we have 500 battleships, nobody will attack us now, and then keep them all in port. No, he wants to get into the war. It's not hoping that if we do enough measures that no one will declare war on us or no one will attack us. He wants to get us into the war. And FDR is right to want to get America into the war. He's also right in that he should get overwhelming American approval to get into the war. I believe some politicians say generally what they mean for their basic principles. Like I say, all politicians have to lie at some level. And I'm talking national politicians, not like your local mayor. Now, the local mayor may know something confidential. Oh, well, they're going to build the railway here. And if he spills it out to people, they'll buy up the land, and then the government will have to pay extra for the land, the blah, blah, blah. And, so even there's confidential things that at some point, a mayor of a city go, well, I don't know where they're going to build a new railroad or the new highway. He may already know, and he may be announcing it in 5 days, but he may say, well, the decision hasn't been made yet, or whatever, and it has been made, and it may be even officially made, but they're waiting for it. So yeah, there are reasons for confidentiality and whatnot. So you have to lie, as opposed to just say no comment, which is sometimes a suitable answer. But all politicians, to some degree, have to lie. Even the good guys, even the best guys, even your best buddies. But when they say, hey, yeah, I'm against ever raising taxes, and they have secretly already typed up a plan to raise, taxes on gasoline, but not on income taxes. I just was referring to income taxes when raising it. No. I believe fundamentally some politicians, not all, and not just right or left politicians, but some politicians say ideologically or basic plans what they mean. The details and reality may crash into their plans, meaning they don't get to achieve them, or they happen in a different way, or whatever. But some are honest. But I think much of the left politicians, I'm not talking to the average person on the street, but politicians, I think FDR is right to want to get us into World War II. But he also wants to do I don't know if it's a communist, because I don't know it, but a massive, super progressive, pseudo-fascist, not maybe real fascism, but definitely, he wants to move the government in that way, and you can't say it. And I think a lot of these other politicians want to do that as well. He says he means well, or I mean, they say down here, he means well. And he's just saying this to get elected because he thinks he's going to do it. And he believes, and I think rightly, and I forget who his Republican opponent was, but the Republicans very much at the time were like, and they're going back to it. So you got to understand here, Republicans ideologically, and this is ideologically, they're against intervention around the world. Not in every case, in every place. Some more extreme libertarian, extreme Republicans are against it anywhere and everywhere. But most are. Now you get people like Lindsey Graham and the former John McCain, or the late John McCain, I should say. They were into intervention anywhere and everywhere. But you got during the Cold War. Just during the Cold War, the Republicans believed, and I think correctly, that communism wanted to take over the world because they thought they were right and they were spreading out over the world. So the Republicans wanted to intervene in places like Vietnam because it was going to stop the spread of communism. Now, the Democrats, who like to intervene, Wilson, FDR, and others, like to intervene around the world, but didn't want to intervene because they wanted the spread of communism around the world. So you had this sort of switch of who was the war party and who was the peace party in America. Because, talk big about war. Yeah, he sort of intervenes in Morocco a little bit, but I don't think there's hardly any real shooting. Teddy Roosevelt gets a Nobel Peace Prize. Teddy Roosevelt, Nobel Peace Prize. Why? Negotiating the peace between Russia, Imperial Russia, and Imperial Japan to ending the Russo-Japanese War. So he gets the Peace Prize. So Republicans are going back to their fundamental belief of, hey, we don't need, Burma and Thailand have gone to war. Okay. Well, we should intervene because one side aggressed against the other side. No. Now, and intervene is different than, oh, hey, we want to give an arms package, or, oh, hey, we want to put economic sanctions against the aggressor. It doesn't matter who in this scenario. Burma and Thailand are just picking two nations sitting next to each other. Whatever, they may want to pick a side and emotionally support a side, as well as actually send some aid, whether military or just bandages or whatever, to one side or the other, and may want to harm the other side by stopping arms sales to the aggressor, and maybe, withdrawing some trade treaty that the aggressor has made. The Republicans are very willing to do something like that ideologically, but they don't want to send troops into Ukraine. It's sort of like, and this, and again, I have Wendell Willkie. Okay, thank you. I know the name Wendell Willkie is easy. I didn't know if he was the one in 1940 was the one running. And, at this point, in the earliest days over Crimea, I might have sent in a battalion an armored battalion to train with the Ukrainian forces, but the training zone would have been on the Crimean Peninsula. But just in the earliest days, basically sort of pushing there to go say, Russia, retreat. Because I think it would have worked. But now I don't want U.S. troops, even if there wasn't a potential of nuclear war. If for some reason all the nuclear weapons were to disappear tomorrow, I think the Democrats would already have troops in Ukraine right now. Trump gets out most and gets lied to about how many troops are left in Syria. He literally, the commander-in-chief is lied to his face by the military about troops. That is, I don't know, they throw it off, and that's treason. I don't know if it's treason, but it is dereliction of duty, and some generals should be court-martialed over it. I wonder if any of them will be if Trump ever gets reelected, because they literally lied to his face about withdrawing and not doing so troops from Syria. And the Democrats have pushed back into like pre-Trump levels, I think, or to peak levels of troops into Syria again. Okay, it's not lots and lots of troops, but they pushed troops into there. I really do believe if there was not the big nuclear threat going on, the Democrats would already have troops into Ukraine. And you can go, oh, but Ukraine's being harmed. Yeah, that's the Democrats. They want to go into all these wars, except when it's seen as the communists are on the other side than America, because they are emotionally for the communists. They believe the communist side is, if maybe flawed in their execution, but is the just outcome because it's fair, it's even, it's leveling. But they want to intervene. I don't want to intervene in Ukraine. I don't want U.S. troops in Ukraine. Now, am I happy with selling / giving weapons of some sorts to Ukraine? Absolutely. Yeah, we can give them some weapons. We can sanction Russia. We can do things there that I'm for. And I think most Republicans, to some level, now $40 billion worth, many Republicans are going, many, not all, but many are going, that's too much. Partially, I think it's just because it's $40 billion, and they don't see, and they just hear these big numbers, and they don't see what it's going to all do. They're afraid, seriously afraid, that they're going to build bridges. Oh, well, we're putting $1 billion to, once the war's over, to rebuild Ukraine's bridges that were blown up by either side. Doesn't matter. There's a military usefulness to rebuild bridges. I don't fucking care about rebuilding bridges in Ukraine. If I want to give money to rebuilding bridges in Ukraine, I will donate it to a building bridges fund, a non-government organization fund that'll go in and build bridges into Ukraine. And to go back to the earlier thing about the wastefulness, how much of that money into corrupt Ukraine, and Ukraine has been a very, very corrupt country, will just get stolen into somebody's pockets. So I just think this big $40 billion aid package, and I don't know the details of it, but I think is misguided at best. But so people are confused by this because they've grown up in the Cold War, that the Republicans were the hawks. Well, that was just because it's the spread of communism. But when you don't have the spread of a superpower around the world, well, Republicans aren't really for intervening. China might be becoming that threat, and the Republicans might be more and more like, we got to stop Chinese involvement in Africa, and or some things like that. Some countries, whether they become communist or just some dictator that's a Chinese puppet that we may decide to invade on, and I might support that because that is seen as a geopolitical major threat spreading around the world versus simply Burma, and whether you call it Siam back then or now Thailand, were to go to war, who cares? I may care that they go to war, but I don't want to put U.S. troops in there. That's the Democrats' way. Now, that doesn't mean they're always wrong. Like I say, I'm supporting FDR in his goal, but it shows that at core, he is not willing to tell the truth of what he truly believes at his core. So if he believes in a progressive, and I don't want to say communist, because I don't think he was a communist, meaning everybody perfectly equal. But I do believe he is, and I don't believe he is a fascist like Mussolini was, because I don't believe he is a hyper-nationalist. But if you look at a lot of his programs, including the NRA, the National Recovery Act, or the National Recovery Agency as part of the National Recovery Act, going on, and people wearing badges and whatnot, they weren't quite to the Italian level of wandering around in political uniforms, but he's heading down the road of fascism and hardcore socialism, and I think that's what he wants to be the standard, and not just because he's using the depression as a leverage to get that done. And it is only really undone bit by Truman, because Truman is a old style Democrat and not a progressive as far as I can tell, and continued to be undone by Eisenhower as a very moderate Republican. I mean, he is a very moderate Republican. He is not a hardcore any type of Republican. He's very moderate. But it's also undone, thirdly, by just the American people who has gone through the Depression, gone through the war. Guys running around with helmets and armbands with CD, civil defense, on them, making sure that the lights were blacked out in coastal cities, and doing other sorts of civil defense stuff, being nosy, being pokey. They may have very, very, very good reasons to do these things, but people are just tired at being poked at by officious little people that they may be doing the right thing and maybe not overly, power hungry, little minor dictators of the block or the neighborhood. Some cases they definitely were those kind of things. Others, they may be the most genial local guy who's understanding, but we got to have the lights out, ma'am, or we got to separate out the trash for recyclables for the war effort and versus garbage to be thrown away, ma'am. And they may be again the nicest guy and just trying to do the best. It's not all bad, but people are just tired of that from the Depression, from the war. That the three factors: Truman, Eisenhower, and the American public are just tired of it. So much of, not the Social Security system, but much of the overreaching of the state is gone after FDR, because the left always pushes too far. Now, let me check on the... I got to look at the time. Okay, good time. I remember I wrote a paper in high school about Roosevelt's threat of court packing and called it authoritarian. Yes, I remember my liberal teacher wrote, "Wow," next to it during the grading paper. I never wrote that politically outward in school afterwards. I figured it was a bad idea since I just cared about getting good grades. I was the opposite in all the way through. I have a degree in political science, which I don't believe there is such a thing. It's not even a social science, let alone a hard science, but I believe in the art of politics. But I have a degree in political science, and I was literally in the political science department, one of 3 students that were openly out, because I had other students come in. "I agree with most of what you're saying." Literally sort of come up quietly as leaving class. "I agree with most of you're saying, keep it up. But sort of have your idea, ZZ," because I just wanted good grades. And I was sort of the military hawk, confronting communism. Another one was a religious Catholic who, sort of a lay Catholic kind of person who was very socially conservative. Very socially conservative. And the third one of us was a very economically, laissez-faire capitalist, not wanting who cares if there's a monopoly, on whatever. No, he wanted, markets, so no monopolies. But short of breaking up monopolies, let whatever companies do whatever. You can't pollute or they can't, break basic laws. But beyond that, they can do whatever they want. All these other regulations are too much, BS. And so he was the economic conservative or right-winger or whatever. I was one of 3 in the university, and I got mostly A's, because I was that good and knew my stuff that well that the leftist teachers, including the head of the department, which I took a bunch of his courses, so he knew me quite well. He knew me quite well. He was a Latin American specialist in political science, so I had a grounding in the 1990s and the history of Latin America and the revolutions and whatnot, because he was teaching it. And so, and I was able to hold my own and get good grades there. He wanted to murder U.S. taxpayers. Okay, I don't know if that's quite with the Wookiee. Okay, Russia wouldn't retreat. Crimea was Russia since Catherine the Great. No, I don't think they would retreat. I just think their tanks would start explodifying as M1 Abrams would drive around and explodify them. I still believe the M1 Abrams is much, and the communications are much, much better. And I think I've always have been told, well, yeah, you got 23 Easting, which is a battle in the first Gulf War against a bunch of Iraqi tanks. And, well, those are the export versions of their tanks with bad Iraqi crews, bad poor training. They're exhausted after the long war with Iran. So, yeah, the Abrams just, yeah. Suffered. I forget whether it was the first Gulf War or the second Gulf War. Sorry, I get things confused. We lost 7 Abrams. No, 9 Abrams. Sorry, we lost 9 Abrams in the invasion. They had, T-72s and other things. We lost 9 Abrams. However many tanks they blew up, we lost 9 Abrams. Well, 7 of the 9 were to friendly fire, and the other 2, the crews blew up the tanks themselves because they were going to abandon them for whatever reason, like the engine wasn't working and they weren't going to stay there or something like that. It wasn't. They may have been tracked or whatever, and the crew wasn't going to stay around. And the drill is don't leave an intact Abrams for the enemy to even look at for a few moments. Blow it up. So the crews blew up 2. So those are counted. So none were lost to enemy action. It was lost to friendly fire. The others were damaged, rolling over a mine and track blows and whatever, but not considered a lost vehicle, maybe knocked out of action. So yeah, but the Russians are so much better. They have the non-export versions, and they're much better trained. And now we're looking at Ukraine and going, and I got my German friends, including one who drives Leopard 2 A5, I think. I'm not sure. I'm sure he can tell. He's told me. I just don't remember whether it's the A5 or the A6. Well, I don't know that the Armata has problems, and we don't know how well the Armata would work. Ragar, we really don't know. All 14 of them, or however many they built. And yes, Arno, Fritz will say the Leopards are better. They might be. But I don't know that their armor package is better. We have depleted uranium in our armor package, and we have depleted uranium projectiles coming out of our guns, and the Leopards don't. Now the newer Leopards, not the early Leopard 2s, but the newer Leopards, they have a longer barrel on them than what they used to have, because we used the Leopard barrel, the earlier ones for the Abrams. And the longer barrel gets their non-depleted uranium, their tungsten-based or whatever rounds, up to almost this, up to a faster speed that has almost as much penetration as our depleted uranium rounds. So you can talk about the newer stabilization that may be more precise for the guns and the Leopards, and you can talk about some of the other upgradings. But you look at the latest Abrams, the latest ones with their active defense. It's not Iron Fist, it's the other Israeli-based. I mean, we're making them now here in the U.S., I believe. Active defense systems added onto the sides of them, and they've only gotten a few of those out so far. But with that active defense system, depleted uranium armor package, so they don't have to rely upon as much of that extra armor, the reactive armor that the Leopards have on. Because if you take off all that extra armor, the removable extra armor on a standard removable on the Leopard, they become very boxy. But you stick on the other extra stuff that's reactive and other things on it, turns it more angly. But the Abrams, with its depleted uranium armor and its depleted uranium rounds, I don't know that it's better. And the Armata has all of its crew in one compartment, 3 of them, and fairly heavily armored. I don't know, and it's classified, so I wouldn't know. Box up front, and so that entire turret is unmanned. So that can be a good thing in that when it explodifies, hit the autoloader with the rounds, the crew isn't maybe harmed at all. The crew just goes, "Oh shit, we aren't moving anywhere. We're on fire. The locals have too many machine guns, or can we, bail out safely and get out of the tank?" But we don't know how well that turret is armored, and we don't know what kind of damage that turret can take and keep functioning, and we don't know how well that turret is mechanically going to work, break down, because all machinery breaks down. How quickly will that break down? And we just don't know, because it's not really tested. And yeah, I know the one broken down Armata, maybe that's what they said, maybe that the brakes, just the guy didn't take the handbrake off the tank. That's what they said. I think maybe because it's a lot electronic, I think the brakes got told not to move somehow electronically, and they couldn't take the brakes off, so they dragged the thing away with the brakes on it from that one Russian. That's my guess. I obviously don't know. So I don't know that the Armata is better. Conceptually, it's trying to be, but I don't know that it is. And I get your thing. How many javelins would I'm afraid, a combined Leopard to Abrams attack? Those 2 tanks combined with. Yeah, and so I don't know about a Leo 2's what sort of active protection systems, but yeah, I think the active protection system is going to blow those javelins out of the sky as it comes near it. I can't guarantee that or anything, but and you fire enough of them. Hey, if we get 40 guys to all launch their javelins all at once at that one tank, we'll be able to take it out. Yeah, sure, you will. But you launch 2 at them? Well, I think the missiles explode out of the sky, and at some point you have to get out of the tank. You're on top of the tank to reload the shotgun shell type charges. They use a shotgun shell. I forget which trophy. I think it's the trophy system. The Iron Fist. I sort of like the Iron Fist better because it was a concussion system. But I guess I don't know why the Americans chose the one that they chose. I guess maybe it's because that's what the Israelis ended up choosing, and I don't know why they chose Trophy over Iron Fist. Just the concept of the Iron Fist to me sounded better, but I don't know whether in practical testing or whether it could just be a budget issue. The cost of Trophy is cheaper than the cost of Iron Fist, and thought to be similarly enough effective, and if you're going to have thousands of them, the cost is important or something. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm going with the Abrams right now as being the best. The most modern Abrams as being better than the most modern Leopard 2 because of the reasons I've stated. And we have some really damn well trained crews in some of our Abrams units. I don't know if that's standard, but some of our crews are really well trained and that kind of thing. Okay, active protections. Yes, absolutely, Ragar. And my understanding is all those active protection systems have a kill switch on them that they can turn off if there's infantry near. But one, you can not stand close to the Abrams. 2, if you have lots of infantry around you, you can turn that off because you got the infantry out there keeping all the javelins and NLAWs and whatever away from you being shot at. They're too far out to necessarily hit you. And you do have also the active protection systems of the non-kinetic type that will continue to function, meaning those that disrupt guidance systems, lasers that will blind incoming missiles and whatnot that are not particularly dangerous to nearby crew or nearby infantry. So you can turn those on and off. So they do have that potential to be a problem. That's sort of why I like the concussive system better, because yes, if you were standing, I don't know, 10 feet away from an Abrams and on the correct side of an incoming missile, and you fired the concussion system off of Iron Fist, it could kill or could seriously injure a person. But then I thought, well, if you're standing out there and the missile comes in, you're on that side of the tank, and the missile comes in without it there and hits the tank and blows up, you could still be killed or severely injured, because even though the main directive force of the explosion is into the tank, if you're just standing around out near the tank and this thing comes in and explodes, you can die as well, just from it's not anywhere near the blast effects to go through any sort of armor, proper armor. But even if you're wearing a bulletproof vest, you still have lots of fleshy bits exposed. So yeah, at some point, if you're talking immediately close to the tank, you're in just about as much danger from the incoming round after it hits the tank, and it explodes reactive armor, and you're 5 feet away from the tank and a reactive armor explodes. I don't think you're going to have a good day. I don't know quite the injury effect 5 feet away from a tank with a reactive armor going off, but you don't want to be there even for that. So yeah, there's more reasons to not use a tank as a shield for infantry, like you would see in World War I, or like you see in the Battle of Hue in 67 and or 68 in Vietnam. They're using it as a mobile pillbox to hide behind and shoot from behind as the tank rolls up. Maybe you want to stay a little further away from it than that nowadays. So yeah, I think there's only 14 Armatas out there. So Russia has built a really nice new missile, anti-ship missile, that they tested. Had about the last test as of like last week, double the range that they thought, and it's a Mach 9. It's going at Mach 9 when it's really far away, because it goes up to the really high atmosphere and goes at Mach 9 with a scramjet. But once it comes down to near the ship, it's got to slow down a lot because the ramjet goes off, because ramjets can't operate at sea level or near it. So it slows down. So it's going slow enough for, they think, probably for most CIWS systems, closed-in weapon systems, both gun systems as well as anti-missile systems. When it gets closer, it's still going damn fast, but it's not going Mach 9 by the time it gets in there. But it whether it's land-based or ship-based, when it's fired from like 500 miles away from you, it's flying really fast to get to your area that you may not realize that you're being fired at quick enough to get all your systems online. So you might get like what happened to the Moskva, got sunk out here. Yeah, but how many of those missiles Russia's actually going to build? Russia seems to be able to build some Armata prototypes or limited production, or a few of this or a few of that. But we can see America producing sustained levels of smart munitions to continue long-term fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan simultaneously, where they're building replacement smart weapons in Russia, but we're seeing so many dumb weapons, at least according to the British defense intelligence postings. I know they're open source postings that they're doing. They believe that the stockpiles of Russia's smart weapons are basically depleted. Bombs and guided missiles are basically depleted. Sure, they're making replacements, but production is slow, nowhere near the consumption rate. So they're going back to earlier weapon systems. So yeah, Russia's good, but not that good. Hey, Beam Slam. Good to have you here. Okay, enough about modern stuff. Let's continue this here. Okay, Naval HQ's advance. Very nice. 41. And that for now. And AP ammunition for cruisers, your 6-inch rounds. Okay. And that's 1939. Okay. Treaties affected a lot of production of ships for World War II, including the Germans. The Germans, of course, lied about their displacement of, and even some of the gun sizes, I believe, on some of their ships. The Americans, in few cases, sort of kind of lied. They go, oh yeah, your cruisers can't, cruisers over, 1,000 tons displacement. It doesn't matter the size. You can only have 8 of them, say. I'm getting, the details are unimportant. You only have 8 of them. And so America's going, oh, okay, we can only have 8 cruisers with 1,000-ton displacement. Now we can have more, 1,000 tons or more. But we can have as many as we want at 990 ton displacement. Okay. Well, we only load half of the ammunition in the ammunition lockers. We only load half the fuel in the tanks and the ships, and we only load half the fresh water in the ships. Well, this otherwise, this ship will be under 1,000 tons. Now, if we fully load it up, it'll be, 1,100 tons or 1,200 tons or something like that. I don't know. So we just won't load up, and we'll call this, this is standard loading. So yeah, we're keep sort of fake out the results a bit. And they could do that for a few things, but also there was based partially on gun barrel size, as well as size of heavy cruisers or size of cruisers of a certain ton. So what America does, they're already got some ships either actually in production, a few of them, or planning in production. So instead of heavy cruisers, they convert them to light cruisers, put 6-inch guns instead of 8-inch guns. Instead of 9 guns, they go 15 guns, hoping volume of fire is going to make up for less penetration. And they turn some of those cruisers, some of the later ones, into aircraft carriers, like the CVLs. Those are built on cruiser hulls that had already been started production, at least most of them. A few of them probably hadn't been started, but they just, swap it over to being a light carrier. Now, so what they did do, though, and this is the AP reminded me of this, is they made a 6-inch gun shell. And they also made the 6-inch guns a little stronger for some of the later ones. You could put it in the older guns, but wear them out faster. That had more power behind them, a longer shell with more explosives in it, but also a very solid, front for penetration, to get not quite the penetration at certain ranges that an 8-inch shell would conventionally give, but getting damn close. So they made some 6-inch shells that would perform almost penetration-wise, almost like an 8-inch shell. And they were hoping that rapid gunfire would do it. And these were meant to take out enemy battle cruisers and heavy cruisers. Not really to take out battleships, but neither were the heavy cruisers. The heavy cruisers are just made to shoot at everything other than battleships out at a range, potentially, that the other ships can't even shoot back, and just blast them out there. But they have getting to about the reload rates of a battleship, which is pretty slow. So sort of a way around it all. Okay, Beam, Sam, and Arno are having fun with each other. Cool. All right. So that's how that sort of worked. And we have a little more research that we can do here. So they were playing around with these treaty limitations. Okay, warship damage control. At this time, or well, by 1940, no one was paying. The treaty is basically gone. And the U.S. is influenced by the treaty designs because they already have either design, like I say, some stuff is already in production, and they're going to start building even more of the ships, or the ships are, on the drawing board, and to significantly redesign them isn't quite worth the effort, so they keep sort of within treaty limitations as to the size of hulls and guns, because you got to redesign so much of the ship to have a bigger round go through it. You just can't swap out bigger guns. Twin engine armament advance. Oh, that's up here. Okay, 41. We want to stop that for now because it's not grayed out, but we don't need to push on it. All right, well, let's do that. How is our production doing? Okay, so most of our forts are either completed or in production. We still have a few fortresses not yet. But it's November 1940, and we have yet to get into aircraft or army production, so that's a bit worrying. Okay, expand our light aircraft factories. Great. Air Force HQs. Great. We'll move that over to motor-based HQs, and I think we have 2 of these to select. Air Force HQs, yes. And Naval HQs, yes. What other? Nope, nothing else we want to do. That's more light aircraft factories, which makes. There's export chromite. Australia. Yeah, we're getting to where we're going to start saying no to most of those, but we'll use a little more money. Twin engine airframe research. We're getting ready to start doing some of that, but let's do single engine fighter prototype. Let's keep advancing on that specialty. Okay, Army headquarters advance. Is that? It's over here, this one. And it's grayed out. Okay. Well, let's do Paris. Okay, we've gone to this. Democratic Party wins the election. Not used to playing a nation that has election results, so yeah. There we go. Okay, El Salvador stopping trade. Medium armored designs have advanced. And yes. Okay, armored cars. We'll give that one a go. Australia. Submarine. New Zealand submarines. They're doing a lot of submarines. Okay. Not bad for them to do. Yes, and Arno wants to see what the new tank looks like. Bill the Christie. Well, let's give it a data. We just got new mediums. Let's check that again. Yep, still the Christie. So we're still the Christie, and this is back to that. Okay, well, whatever. Medium fuel tank research advances, which frees up more research down here, but I'm going to look for other 1940 technologies that we should do first, maybe. I know of a bunch, but I'm looking at some of these here. Or possibly 41s. But okay, so we have a bunch of 1940, so we're going to start on that. Will we get the medal for money? Certainly. Okay, aviation navigation radar. I think that is, no, that is this one. Okay, good. Well, yeah, let's do destroyers and armored fighting vehicles, AA. And let's also come up here and do cruiser radar. And I think we will save this. Now, I have some good news for everybody. I hope all of you who are currently watching will like this good news. In approximately 40 minutes, I will be over on Slithering TV playing Panzer Corps 2, the Axis Operations 1943 DLC, which has just come out recently. So I will be starting that. The first battle is very tricky. I have not completed the first battle, but I played the first few turns a few times to figure out the opening moves. So I will be over there playing that. And tomorrow we'll be playing War Thunder on this channel with Arno and hopefully others. And we have a premiere of a video that will be shown during the live stream. No, we can't do Infantry Thunder, Arno, because we will be showing the premiere of Team G's Greatest Hits Volume 1 of War Thunder. So we'll be showing the premiere at least once of that video during the live stream that Eric has edited up. So we have to focus on War Thunder. So, you don't want your video to be shown? Arno? You're in the video. At least your tank is and whatnot. So, don't know why you're going boo on that. Yeah, you're in it. Don't you remember a particular kill you made with a main gun of a Tiger 1 tank? So, that will be premiering tomorrow. So, yes.